To the latest on the Israel-Hamas war as they enter the final day of the ceasefire deal with negotiators working to extend it. Matt Gutman is on the scene in Israel after a dozen more hostages were released. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Michael. And there's a 6th batch of hostages expected to be released tonight, but they could be the final hostages unless those negotiations in Qatar, which involve CIA Director Burns, can hammer out an extension to this deal. And the big question, will any of the 9 American citizens still believed held in Gaza be on that list? We understand 2 of them are women who should be eligible, one in her 40s, one in her 70s.
This morning, a 5th batch of hostages walked by Hamas gunmen to those Red Cross vans and to freedom as Israel and Hamas prepare for what could be the final day of this ceasefire. Hamas releasing this footage showing the 12 hostages handed over, one woman seen in a wheelchair, 17-year-old Mia Lemberg clutching her dog Bella. They'd been together for nearly 2 months in captivity, and she was still in her arms overnight in an Israeli hospital. Mia was kidnapped with her mother, the two seen together after the release, their heads pressed together. Those Red Cross vans squeezing through crowds near Gaza's border with Egypt, and after crossing into Israel, and amidst the jubilation of the well-wishers for dozens of hostages returned the past week, the realization by families that their loved ones may be back, but they're not the same. Diego Engelbert telling me his nieces Mika and 11-year-old Yuval Engel, seen here pushed into a wheelchair to the Red Cross, each nearly lost 25 pounds, living on a single piece of bread a day. Thomas Hand had thought his 9-year-old daughter Emily had been killed, only to learn weeks later she'd been captured by Hamas. The homecoming, he told CNN, not what he expected.
All of a sudden, the door opened up and she just ran, just like I imagined it, running together. I probably squeezed too hard before she left. It was, chubby, curly, young kid face. Yeah, she's lost a lot of body weight.
Overnight, Hamas sending Israel the final list of releases. Not on it, the youngest hostages, 10-month-old Kfir and 4-year-old Ariel, who, along with their mother, Shiri Bibas, were kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th. In Tel Aviv overnight, a rally demanding their release, and the fear of family members it might never happen.
Have any of them seen or heard anything about your family?
No. No one saw Shiri, Yardan, or the children. No one saw them. We hoped for something, something to hold on to, a proof of life. We don't know if they're alive. Every day for us is every day that we wait here and we anticipate. It's another day for them to be held captive.
The family of Dietze Heyman, who was released Tuesday, telling ABC News that the 84-year-old is undergoing medical evaluations but is in good spirits.
Our sense is that she's in good hands. And they're being very careful.
She's a strong woman, and I think she's gonna overcome it.
Ramon Kirst also among the dozen released, but her husband Yagev is still in captivity.
We were ecstatic, but the joy only lasts a few minutes because then you realize she was released without her husband.
And the growing question, where are the 9 Americans still believed held in Gaza? 2 women and 7 men. The only American released since the truce began, 4-year-old Abigail Idan, who was freed by the militant group over the weekend and was just released from an Israeli hospital following checkups. As part of the deal to bring that batch of 12 hostages home, Israel agreed to release 30 Palestinian prisoners, all women and teenagers. With the possibility of the war resuming in Gaza, the UN says 1.8 million remain displaced, more than the population of Philadelphia. Families forced to cook and clean in the wintry outdoors amidst those bombed-out ruins. And now as the ceasefire enters its 6th day, much-needed humanitarian aid is pouring into the region, including more than 54,000 pounds of medical supplies and food from the U.S. But officials are warning it's not enough.
And the UN Secretary General just this morning warning about those dire conditions in Gaza, soaring infectious diseases there, and saying that in the coming months it's possible that more Gazans will die from infectious diseases than from bombings there. Robin.
Okay, Matt, appreciate your reporting. We're going to go now to the West Bank. Tom Sufi-Burge is there on the scene for us. And Tom, we understand that you spoke with some of the Palestinians freed from Israel. Good morning.
Good morning, Robin. That's right. The return of more Palestinian prisoners who have been freed from Israeli prisons as part of that agreement to release Israeli hostages is being celebrated here in Ramallah and across the West Bank. Most of those Palestinians freed so far by Israel are women and teenage boys, and the expectation is that more will be released tonight. Overnight, crowds in Ramallah celebrating, welcoming more Palestinians freed from Israeli jails. Israel releasing 30 women and teenage boys last night. ABC News' Ines de la Cuatera on the scene as they were bussed into the West Bank.
You can see people here running to meet that bus down there, carrying the new group of Palestinian prisoners. This clearly feels like a giant celebration.
In total, 180 Palestinians now set free since Friday, when that ceasefire in Gaza kicked in. Israel expected to release more Palestinian prisoners tonight, with Hamas now pushing to extend the ceasefire for a further 4 days, according to Israeli media. Some of the Palestinians released had been convicted by Israeli courts for terrorism-related offences. Others were being held without trial. Ruba Darisa, one of those released last night. She calls herself a political activist, resisting Israel's occupation.
Israel accuses you of supporting terrorism. How do you respond?
Palestinian people have the right to fight, she tells me. This is our land, and I want to be free. Well, 2 Palestinian teenagers were killed here in the West Bank Tuesday in an Israeli raid, say Palestinian officials. There has been a spike in violence in this region since that Hamas terror attack and Israel's invasion of Gaza. George?
Okay, Tom, thanks.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.